I wouldn't put money on it. And I think at the end of the day, these two parties are absolutely irredeemable. You cannot fix this problem. You cannot band-aid it. You have to destroy it. You have to start something different. Now, again, I agree. It's not going to happen at the ballot box. There's way too many seats. I do think that local elections absolutely matter. You want to know who your city council members are. You want to know who your mayor is. You want to know who your county commissioners are. But most people don't know who those people are. They just pay attention to the top races, most of which will never affect you directly. But when you know about what's going on at the local level, and most of those races are not partisan, they're usually you can be independent and run for those seats. Those types of things absolutely make a difference. In the interim, I think being very concise about where you put your money is very important. And that brings us back to what you initially said about Plattner. I think Plattner is a solid candidate, and I think he's going to win. I think he's going to win for a variety of reasons. Number one, Janet Mills is completely fading into the dustbin of history. So he's going to be the nominee. And Susan Collins is a walking corpse, and he has fresh energy. He absolutely toes the line between progressivism and libertarianism, which is exactly what Maine wants. It's exactly what New England wants outside of Boston. So the idea that
and the Nazis might not vote for him, but with the tattoo, at the very least, they'll stay home.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
I can walk. Yeah. But at the end of the day, I think he's got a really good chance. And that's where, you also look at the fundraising in terms of how well he's done. And you say, okay, that's a race that's in good shape. Other races, maybe not so much. And in the case of Shama Sawant, she's fundraising a decent amount of money, but she's not swimming in money. So unless you're swimming in money, and again, it's still a little early because her election truly counts in November, this is still the time to really start fortifying your positions. And if we can pick one race where we can flip a seat and put in somebody who absolutely has a revolutionary streak, Washington's 9th district is the one we're going with, and we hope to see it through once we get to November.
Well, yeah,
I know Keaton's going to stab me for opening up a topic this broad, but I'm going to do it anyway. All right, so being in this,
taking advantage of being, yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I can't get to him.
He can't slap me here.
Yeah.
So when I'm in New York, sometimes he'll drive downstate. I'll answer the door. He slaps me, goes back,
and leaves.
He just goes back. It's amazing. He tells his wife he's going out for ice cream. He comes down, slaps me, goes back with the Hager-Dazs.
I got the keys to your apartment, bitch. I could go in there and just put a board with nails right.
And you're out of town right now, so
there's nothing you could do. I could Home Alone that whole apartment. You could light your hair on fire as soon as you step in the door.
Keaton could fabulous Mr. Ripley me, man. He has documents going back to my grandparents' wedding that I have him holding. Right. Yeah. Wow. He could become me.
I have him around here somewhere.
He could be me.
I don't remember exactly where I put him, not to alarm you.
That's comforting. No, seriously, I gave those things to him in case I'm not coming back to the country, so he can send those things to me wherever I go. Like World War III is about to break out. You could have martial law by the time I'm supposed to come back. We'll see what happens. But all right, so being here, something that has really struck me is how much they developed a very clear ideological commitment long before the United States ever set foot in the country. They developed that struggling against the French. This is from early 20th century. They're forming communist cells in the prisons and developing political education. They have a very clear idea of what they want, of what revolution means to them. And you could argue that's a big part of why they won the war, because they understood exactly what they were fighting for. They didn't just start this political education when America showed up. They had been doing it by that time for over 50 years. They had been developing a cadre of people with a real vision of what they wanted the country to be. I think in America, and we're guilty of this too. I mean, not guilty of it. You have to know what you want to commit to. You're not going to lead people down a primrose path. You have to know what you believe in. But when we talk about revolution, your channel's called Revolutionary Change, I think most of us, ourselves included, really have not defined what those terms are. And I think it is part of what makes the left in America so mushy, because there's no clear message. There's no clear, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Do you want to overthrow the government? Do you not want to overthrow the government? If you want to overthrow the government, if you want a completely different system, what does that system look like? Do you have democratic processes, or do you, as in these communist countries, have democratic processes within a party and not outside of it, so that you have no other parties competing? Like, what does that look like? And I think until the left has a sizable contingent that can agree on something like that, it's always going to be subject to fights over identity and class and, you know, all this shit, which I believe has largely been driven by intelligence services running a psyop to defang the left since the 60s. I think that's a big part of why the left looks like that. So when you talk about revolution, what are you talking about?
Well, I think it's pretty clear cut what some of the parameters are. The first one, which is the most obvious, is that if you really want to spark a revolution, you have to hit them where it hurts. And there's only one place, and that's in the wallet. So anytime there is any type of, let's just say, BDS, whether it's legislation, actions that are taking place, it's the one thing that perks up their ears. Now, in the time that I lived in South Florida, the only thing that Wasserman Schultz did more than sucking off Netanyahu every time she could get in the same room as him was pushing forward anti-BDS legislation. It's basically what she was known for. And so the reason that is the case.
Oh, my God. Can you at least wipe Donald Trump's shit off first?
And that, of course, is what gets all of them going. It's just not the only one. I mean, if you think about it, the ones that pose, if you will, you know, there are always going to be, there's that line that you can walk up to, and then you decide whether you're going to cross it or not. And so if you're not about economic boycotts, you will never change anything, ever. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing you have to consider is, and I'm only going to say a little bit about this, everyone should go do their own research. How do you want to acquire and utilize money within this current system? And by that, I mean, what kind of money? Think about it. Think about the dollar and where it's going. And once you go down that road, you'll understand how revolution happens, because that's where we're going. There is no way to stop this. We are inevitably going to collapse as an empire. We're already kind of there. And, you know, I would say that the one true silver lining of having Trump is that he has completely opened up the masses' eyes, because there is no hiding with him. He just puts it out there. And everyone who gets their panties in a bunch over him, I feel like saying, please save me your fucking, pontifications, if you will, or your grandstanding about, oh, how bad Trump is. No, he's just doing all the things that for millennia, people in the highest positions of society have been able to get away with, but they've always been a little bit more coy about it than him. He just doesn't care. And partially he doesn't care because he knows his time on this earth is kind of limited at this point. So he's trying to get every little nook and cranny he can so that the American psycho of a son-in-law of his can take over the empire, which will happen. Jen is convinced he's not going to live through his term, which is probably true as well, knowing his health and how he's going at this point, 3 years. At his age and the way he lives his life with how unhealthy he is, wouldn't surprise me in the least. But,
well, it's funny. Sorry to cut you off, but I have to run this by you because I think he'll live through his term, but I think they're going to force him to resign because I think the real play that they want to make is JD Vance. I think they are very invested in JD Vance. I think the tech oligarchs really feel like Vance is the guy who can really build the Palantir state.
And you just hit it right on the head. You see, there's a lot of tech oligarchs and giants in this country, but make no mistake, there is one tech company above all others, and that's Palantir.
That's Palantir.
I mean,
and he's their guy.
I mean, Alex Karp, he is Big Brother from 1984. Like, he truly is the embodiment. And when
he's O'Brien.
When he talks about killing innocent children, like he jerks off talking about it. Like, that's how hot it is.
He's manic. He's manic, and Vance is their guy. And I think that Vance is really not electorally viable unless he is able to take over as an incumbent and run as an incumbent. You're already seeing Gavin Newsom has beaten JD Vance by 7-8 points across multiple polls now. And you say, well, how could Gavin Newsom possibly be a viable candidate? Well, I mean, he's literally running against the T-1000. He may as well be running against the Robert Patrick in Terminator 2. I mean, that's what Vance is. He is an android programmed to destroy the human race by the gods of that world, by Peter Thiel and Karp and all that. So I think that they will probably have to force Donald Trump to step aside. They'll say he's sick or something, and maybe he will be sick or something. But I don't see how I don't see how they allow Trump to finish the term, because I think it's too steep a climb for Vance to win at this rate, given how fast things are falling apart. And that just brings me to this. I just want to show you some of these graphics here. So president is underwater in every swing state with disapproval topping approval.
Me, that is totally fake news. You don't know what
you're
talking
fake
about.
polls.
You have to call it as I see it. If you call it as I see it, then we are way up in the polls, way up.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, look at this. I mean, Donald Trump's net approval rating in every state. Look at that. Almost the whole thing is blue, and what's red is mostly barely red. I mean, he's got West Virginia, he's got Oklahoma, he's got Wyoming, where he's like comfortably in the black. Maine, where Plattner's running, -23. North Carolina, another Senate race, -10. Iowa, another Senate race, -11. Alaska, -12, another Senate race. Texas, big Senate race, -9. Florida, -8. Even Mississippi, he's +2. Louisiana, +2. So at this rate, yeah, it feels to me like they're going to have to force him to step aside and gracefully retire and see if Vance can right the ship. But the reason I prepped those graphics was not to make that point, actually. It was to ask you something that this goes back to when we first met each other. And it's funny because the first time that you guys were nice enough to invite us on your show, I ended up doing what was probably in retrospect something kind of rude, which is I urged Jen Perlman not to run for Congress. Listen, don't do it.
Listen,
very good guest that was.
Considering the fact that Jen has left South Florida and is now starting her own form of the revolution, which is living off the land, chicken.
Oh, is she? Where?
Yeah.
Oh, she's raising chickens?
Where's she living?
By March.
Where?
Through Taylor Greene's territory in Northwest Georgia.
Oh, Georgia.
Oh, Georgia. Okay, beautiful. All right. Well, the reason I brought that up is because the reason why I didn't think it was worth primarying Debbie Wasserman Schultz is because I said the Democratic electorate is just unreachable. They're the most incurious, shallow, unmovable voters in America. But it seems like as Trump's popularity has collapsed, so has the polling of Democratic leadership. And it does seem like there is, I don't know if you can call it a Tea Party movement quite yet, but there is certainly a rebellion within the Democratic Party against the leadership that made itself abundantly clear in the Mamdani victory. I think you're seeing that in the Plattner polling now. So what are your thoughts on that? Because I don't want to say we started off sort of at odds about that, but I remember the first time I met you guys, we spent a lot of time talking about, can the Democratic base ever have their Tea Party moment where they rebel against the leadership? And I was absolutely convinced it could never happen. And it seems like it's happening now, at least more than I ever thought possible.
No, it's not going to happen, but it will happen regionally. There will be certain pockets that will step up. Again, Plattner would be a good example of that because it's not really, Maine is not a Democratic state. And at the end of the day, Gavin Newsom, it has already been decided, is going to be the nominee for president in 2028. And by that, I mean, the superdelegates have already gotten their marching orders. We know where the money's going to go. And if the Democrats want to make sure that they win, as much as I hate having to say this, if AOC does run for president and she ends up taking the VP slot alongside Newsom, that might be enough to actually win. I hate to say it, but as much as I want to get away from the two-party system, you can still look objectively at what's happening in front of you. The average Democratic voter still does what they're told. And since no one is actually telling them to get rid of Schumer, Jeffries, even Pelosi is still pulling the strings from behind the scenes. Heck, they won't even get rid of Wasserman Schultz. Wasserman Schultz is probably going to be out of Congress after this term because the GOP is going to rewrite a couple of congressional seats in the state, and it looks like her district is on the chopping block. And that's pretty much it. That's how these things sort of come to an end because they're not going to just give it up voluntarily. That's the problem. And then you look at all the different stupid infighting that goes on amongst the consultant class, Look at the shit that they're doing in Texas right now with Tellerico, all of the, black faces in high places that are calling him a racist and saying that he doesn't really give a shit. And it's like, it's not about whether they believe it or not. It's about, how do I get paid?
Right. Yeah,
and I think there's way too much of that is going on in the political arena, where the Democratic establishment will absolutely destroy itself before it allows some type of a revolutionary moment to happen within its party.